Hello and welcome to Snow Country Stories Japan, a podcast about life and travel in Japan's legendary Yukiguni. My name is Peter Carnell, a freelance writer and guide based in Nagano, and in today's episode I speak with Sam Yonoda, lead distiller at the newly established but already well awarded Nozawa Onsen Distillery. Located in the heart of the historic hot spring town of Nozawa Onsen, the distillery opened its doors to the public in December 2022, with a vision to produce gin and whiskey that reflects the essence of the area, something I discuss in detail with Sam. Nozawa Onsen is located around 50 kilometers or 70 minutes drive to the northeast of Nagano City, one of the Snow Country's most historic and most famous hot spring towns. In recent years, it is better known as one of the best ski resorts in Japan, and I think for international listeners, that is certainly what you probably know it as. Japan's Snow Country boasts lots of great ski resorts, of which I regard Nozawa Onsen as probably the best all-round resort in Nagano, when you consider everything you probably want to consider when making that type of statement. I love it, and for anyone wanting to know more about the ski resort, keep listening after my chat with Sam as I go into a bit of detail about just why I rate Nozawa Ski Resort so highly. As a hot spring town, Nozawa Onsen's history stretches back well over 1,000 years, originally discovered, or so the story goes, by a Buddhist monk named Gyoki in the 8th century. Since that time, the town has been known as a place of rejuvenation and restoration, blessed with numerous onsen sources, and to this day it boasts many free public hot springs dotted throughout the village. Let me stop here quickly to explain. Onsen in Japan refers to naturally occurring hot water, mineral water and water vapor. To classify as an onsen, the water must be at least 24 degrees Celsius or 75 degrees Fahrenheit, originate from a depth of at least 1.5 kilometers, around 1 mile, and contain specific minerals such as sulfur, magnesium or iron, to name a few. Japan's location on the boundary of tectonic plates on what is commonly referred to as the Pacific Ring of Fire results in an abundance of hot springs across the country. No one knows for sure how many onsen exist in Japan, but you'll read estimates ranging from 20,000 to 30,000 or more. Among those, there are many onsen towns, blessed with a concentration of hot spring sources and often known for their medicinal or rejuvenating properties. Nozawa is one such town, one of the most famous onsen towns in the Snow Country, blessed with numerous sources coming out of the ground at temperatures between 40 to 80 degrees Celsius, that's 100 to 180 Fahrenheit. The water is then channeled into bathhouses, of which Nozawa has many free ones dotted throughout the village, the water temperature control to make it possible to bathe. But believe me, it's still pretty hot. As such, water is fundamental to the story of Nozawa, a story that is told through the gin being produced at Nozawa Onsen Distillery. As discussed with Sam, their gin has already been recognised with a number of awards, and while the whiskey is still a few years off, I have no doubt that it's going to do very well. The opening of the distillery is yet another example of what makes Nozawa Onsen an all-year-round destination, and I hope that this episode sparks your interest in what they're doing and visiting for yourself. I'd like to say a big thank you to Sam and the team at Nozawa Onsen Distillery for welcoming me in and taking time to speak with me. If you're interested to hear more about the ski resort, make sure to keep listening after my chat with Sam. Time markers are also in the show notes. And listen right to the end of the show as I ask Sam to confirm a theory I have as to why Nozawa's bathhouses are just so hot. I hope you enjoy. My guest on the podcast today is Sam Yonoda, the lead distiller at the recently established but already well awarded Nozawa Onsen Distillery. Listeners to the podcast might already be familiar with Nozawa Onsen as it's one of Japan's best ski resorts and a historic hot spring town. Sam, thanks for speaking with me today, and how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thanks. Great day in Nozawa. How are you?
Great, but a little bit sweaty today.
Yeah, it is the humid season now, isn't it?
Yeah. So if you hear any rumbles in the background, we're a little bit of a passing storm as we conduct this interview. First question for you, Sam, given you live here in Nozawa, skier or snowboarder?
Neither, actually. I have yet to go down the slopes, even living in Nozawa, yeah.
How does that happen? How can you live here and are you not tempted to
Oh, I'm very tempted. I was busy making gin and whiskey,
Yeah, well, let's jump into it because the reason we are chatting today is, of course, the distillery you work for, Nozawa Onsen Distillery, which is very new, operating, or I believe opened last year, December 2022.
That's correct.
What was the inspiration behind starting the distillery? Why are we talking today?
Well, the guys who started it, they had already set up a hospitality business. It's called Stay Nozawa. They started off with a lodge. Have now opened a bunch of restaurants and have lodges dotted around Nozawa Onsen Distillery, and really had a big focus on contributing to the tourism in Nozawa Onsen Distillery. And they all love Nozawa Onsen. And they've always wanted to contribute and get people from around the world to really know how special this place is. And so continuing on from that, they started a bar called Tanuki Bar, and they were just talking over a few drinks and actually written on a napkin.
And like all best plans, they're written on bar napkins. I think they begin on a napkin.
Yeah, that's right. Apparently that's what happened. The village, like everyone in the village, is really proud of the water. It tastes fantastic. You need good water to make good alcoholic beverages. And they've really wanted to... They really saw the opportunity. This is a great place to start a distillery. It's in the mountains, there's good water, and it will also be a great a tourist destination for the village.
I think a lot of listeners will know Nozawa Onsen primarily as a ski resort, but of course, long before it was a ski resort, it's always been a hot spring town going back over 1,000 years. But to the best of my knowledge, there's not a strong tradition of brewing or distilling here, or is that correct?
In Nozawa, there is actually a beer brewery, craft beer brewery at the moment. I actually heard there's a guy growing grapes for wine. I don't know if he's going to make wine here or if he's passing them on to wineries in Nagano. And then there's actually a couple of sake breweries quite close by.
What's your background, Sam? How did you end up in Nozawa?
So I was brewing and distilling over in Ibaraki for about 6 years. And then I got a call. Some guys wanted to see what they thought of their plans on starting up a distillery. Kind of half headhunted, I guess. But yeah, I went along. I thought I'll take the family along, have a trip, and that was in October 2021. So it wasn't the ski season. I arrived. I was blown away by Nozawa Onsen Village. You can hear the rivers running in every corner of the village. It really feels alive, and just all the mountains green. Straight away, I thought I could really connect to this place, and it would definitely be a good, the perfect spot to make gin and whiskey.
Was there a specific vision or style of gin that they wanted to produce when the distillery was opened? I guess the question I'm asking is what sets Nozawa's gin apart from other gins?
Basically, it started off as, I want to taste Nozawa. I'm not from Nozawa Onsen Village, so that was a very difficult thing to start off with, but that was the goal, to make sure, to make a product that the inbound tourists came and bought a bottle and then brought it back to wherever they came from. When they drank it, they would be reminded of Nozawa Onsen Village. So what we did was really go around the forest, went around the village, spoke to all the locals to get ideas for this, and really interesting because we just picked up anything we could find, like smelt it, tasted it, if it wasn't tree bark or whatever. But it was a really interesting adventure starting up these first 4 gins.
So tell me about those botanicals that you're using and how they contribute to the flavour profiles that you've landed on.
Yeah, so I mean, each of them has a very different story. For example, in Nozawa Gin, we really wanted people to smell the forest. You come to Nozawa Onsen Village, even in the snow, you can see the forest surrounding you. I guess the 4 gins kind of tell us a story across the geography of Nozawa Onsen. Nozawa gin is kind of up in the mountains, up in the forests. The classic dry gin is kind of like the city drink. I mean, this is a village, but it's kind of like the imagine tuxedos, martinis, that kind of style. So it's a very bold, like a very bold gin that uses quite traditional botanicals and methods. And then Iwai gin is kind of like down the valley of Nozawa Onsen village, and it kind of celebrates. Well, Iwai is the Japanese word for celebration, and it's celebrating the harvest. So there's a lot of fruits grown down the village. So we actually spoke to one of our old friends. He grows sweet plums, apples. So we're using the apple wood from his apple farm, and we're using the fresh sweet plums that he grows in the summer. And the Shiso gin, it's quite an interesting part of the four gins. It's the one that we had a little experiment with adding a bit of color, so it's got a touch of pink to it. So the Shiso gin is more about like the locals' back garden basically. So we use purple, red or purple. Some people call it red shiso, purple shiso. So that's perilla leaf. It's a very, for a lot of Japanese people, it's a very nostalgic flavor and aroma.
Across those four gins that you're producing at the moment, is there anything in terms of the botanicals you're using, anything unique that stands out there that you know that you're aware that not many other distilleries are making use of? Well,
one of the interesting botanicals of the Nozawa gin is something called kakidoshi leaf. It's basically an ivy. So I was trying to find a tea that was made in the Nagano region, and I found this kakidoshi tea, so it's like ivy tea. I thought, it would be great if I could find the real thing, the fresh ingredient. And back then, when the distillery hadn't been made yet, we're in the office when I've stayed in Nozawa's lodges, and I was with my colleague, and he was like, I'm pretty sure I've just seen it all around the village. We look out, and there in the garden there was kakidoshi everywhere. It's a really great leaf that has a little bit of a minty note to it, and it's quite earthy. I thought that was just a really great find. When you make gin, you just look around where the distillery is, find the most local thing you can, but obviously not everything works well. Like say, it's not just pick up anything and hopefully it will work. We did try a huge number of different botanicals, plants, leaves. Like I went like the applewood and the Iwai gin. Like I tried apples, didn't really come through very well. Then I tried the leaves, didn't really come through very well. And then I just tried the bark, and it came through very well. You get this lovely, slightly like fruity, acidic note to it, which contributes really well to the Iwai gin profile.
As mentioned, Nozawa is also a very famous hot spring town with a history stretching back more than 1,000 years. Very popular ski resort, subject to heavy snow each winter. As such, water and snow are fundamental to the story and character of Nozawa. So is water as much a part of the story as the botanicals when it comes to gin?
Definitely. Nozawa Onsen Village is really proud of its water. People come from miles away to just to collect water from the springs and bring it back home. And then for gin and whiskey, it has a massive effect on the final product, because the spirit comes off at around 80% ABV of the stills, and then you've got to dilute that down to 40 to 45, or classic dry gins 48. But that's like 40 to 50% of the product is going to be that water, and it really decides the final touch of the product. So
Sam, can you walk me through a little bit of the distilling process? Like, how are you producing the gin that you are?
Yeah, of course. So basically we start off with a Japanese-made rice neutral grain spirit. And we first macerate most of the big botanicals for each gin in that spirit in the pot still. Pot still is that lovely piece of copper. that everyone sees in distilleries. And you basically leave the botanicals in there overnight. We let all the good oils from the botanicals to dissolve into the alcohol. And so the next day when we distill, the alcohol kind of brings over those oils with them in the vapor. And yeah, and this can go two ways. You can go straight to the condenser where you condense the vapor back into liquid, or you can pass it through what's called the gin basket. It's basically just a basket. And the vapors go through some other botanicals that you might want to get more lighter notes from, so like flowers, some of the citrus fruits that we use, we put in there. So yeah, Nozawa Gin and Iwai Gin, they go through the basket. Shiso Gin as well. But the classic, we do it in quite a traditional way, so we don't use the gin basket. We just go straight from pot still to condenser. And then you end up with roughly 80% ABV. Beautiful spirit.
I'll be honest there, you lost me. But at the end, you have gin.
Yes, basically. Put it in a pot, add some fire. Well, not fire, add some heat.
Add some heat.
And you get some spirit.
I know you've already had a lot of success and recognition with different awards. Can you run me through the awards that the distillery has won?
Yes, so we recently won awards at 3 different competitions. One is the San Francisco World Spirits Awards, San Francisco World Spirits Competition. We won gold medal for all 4 of our gins. That is quite a big thing. One thing that's quite special about this distillery is we have 4 products on our main lineup, and all of them managed to get recognition, gold awards. And then there's also another competition called the SIP Awards. This is a really interesting one. It's instead of like the San Francisco one, which is run by it's judged by industry people, industry professionals. The SIP Awards is actually judged by consumers. So we got the other side of the spectrum, other side of the product. And so the classic dry gin got platinum, Nozawa Gin got double gold, Iwai and Shiso gins, they got gold. And then most recently, and actually tomorrow, we'll be going to the awards ceremony, the Tokyo Whisky and Spirits Competition, at the moment the only one in Japan for gin and whiskey. We won the Best Newcomer Award, which is a very big deal. So that's we were picked out of the many new distilleries that hadn't released whiskey yet. So all the gin distilleries and the ones that are kind of in the 3 to 5 year build up to the first release of whiskey.
So you keep referencing whiskey there. So yeah, my understanding is obviously the distillery will be producing whiskey, but you're still a few years off. Is that correct? Yes,
we only started producing whiskey in January this year, actually.
And so what's the timeline for it to be available?
Well, ideally, when it's ready. I don't know. It's very difficult to say. In most countries, whiskey needs to have been aged at least 3 years. A lot of places are working on methods to speed up the maturation process. Some are successful, some not. We're actually barreling whiskey at the start. We're barreling them in quite small barrels, and that usually speeds up the maturation process because there's more surface area to liquid ratio.
In terms of the whiskey you'll produce, what do you envisage? What's going to stand out? What's going to differentiate Nozawa whiskey from others?
Well, our distilleries started off very interesting. If everyone manages to ever come over, you'll see there's quite a number of bits of equipment that aren't usually found in Japanese whiskey distilleries. Well, let's take it from the beginning. Our barley, we source it from Australia. It's a barley variety called Schooner, and it's a very interesting malt. it was developed in the 80s, and it was very famous for its notes of honey and vanilla that it produced in the spirit. But then, as what happens with malted barley is people keep developing new varieties that you can get more alcohol per ton from. So it kind of phased out actually at one point, but then a malting company called Voyager, they revived growing this barley, and have actually we're their first importers actually, and it's becoming quite popular across Australian breweries at the moment. And interestingly, it used to be quite popular amongst Japanese barley shochu makers. They really prized that honey and vanilla.
Shochu being a distilled Japanese drink typically produced from rice or potatoes.
So rice, potatoes, or barley, and in this case it was that schooner barley variety. Yeah, this barley, we mill it down very fine through what we call a hammer mill. So basically hammer it to flour. This is a method that's a little bit unusual in Japanese malt whiskey distilleries. Usually what you do is you put it through a roller mill. So you have two rolls which kind of like split the barley. And so basically you want to separate the husk from the center starch component. And then the husk kind of acts like a filter bed in the next process. But we went through, in a very different direction. We have two mashing techniques. One is called all grain in mashing. Basically, we mix the barley and the hot water, get the starch to convert to sugars as usual, but then we don't filter it before sending it to the fermentation tank. That doesn't exist in Japan at the moment. That'll create a very different profile. And then we have probably Japan's first mash filter. If you've ever been around a Japanese sake brewery, you'll see like this. You usually see this massive, long machine that has a ton of filter plates in it, and that's how they filter the rice from the sake. This is a similar model. A more modern model is actually getting a little bit popular over in America with breweries, but we're the first Japanese whiskey distillery to start using it.
So Japanese whiskey is already well established as some of the best in the world. Do you see that as an advantage or a challenge going into that kind of market space?
Oh, definitely both. Of course, the challenge will be that by the time we are ready to release whiskey, there's going to be a lot of other Japanese whiskey distilleries that have already released a product. And so those distribution lines, I don't think they'll be full, but, a little bit harder to get into. But we will let everyone know that we are using some interesting techniques to make whiskey. I'm sure they'll be... it'll do fine in that challenge, and then it's an advantage in a way because everyone expects the Japanese whiskey to be brilliant. It's well awarded, and so people will be looking for it. It won't be too difficult to find customers around the globe.
Somebody said to me before speaking with you today that actually the whiskey is the main game for you guys. The gin is just having a bit of fun. Any truth in that? And if so, are you surprised by the speed with which you've been awarded and the recognition that you've already got?
I mean, it is. It's quite common for people to make gin while they're waiting for whiskey to mature. But I believe it was a very good move in the sense that gin, to me, is probably the best spirit that will represent the local area. So you can't use all these botanicals in whiskey, rum, maybe a little bit in vodka, but not too much. So I think it should also be. I think it is also a main part of the business as well as the whiskey.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you on that point, actually, because I think one of the things I want to get at with this podcast is that in terms of understanding a place, and this place that I think both of us love, the snow country in Japan, two gateways to that are obviously the food, which everyone thinks about, but of course local drink. And like you say, for that reason, because of the botanicals that are going into gin, of all drinks that there are, this one actually gives you a real taste of this place more than anything else. Second part of that question, though, was have you been surprised by the speed which you have been recognised for your gin and the awards you've won?
Yes and no. It was partly like for a bit of fun, and also just see how it goes. Like see what We've had a lot of customers come into the distillery, give us feedback, but what do the professional judges think? And yeah, having all of the products win golds or more than a gold, we were surprised, but at the same time, we were like, yes, we're doing things right. Gave us a lot of confidence and confidence to think of new products and confidence to try new things.
So in your opinion, Sam, what makes a great gin? What makes a great whiskey?
Well, as mentioned earlier, the final product will eventually be 40% water, so you've got to have good water behind it. The gin and the whiskey really needs to have utilised the local surrounding, and of course a very passionate team that really love the place that they're making it in and are able to express it through the product.
So for anyone looking to try your gins, where can they find them, and are they being exported yet?
At the moment, we're only selling in the domestic market, but hopefully at some point in the near future we'll start exporting. And then at the moment on the domestic market, there's quite a number of bars now in Tokyo and Osaka. So you'll definitely find it all around Nozawa Onsen Village, of course, in every single bar and every single bottle shop. And
the distillery itself is very easy to access because it's in the central village, only a few minutes walk from the Oyu, the largest of the public onsens. Distillery is open to the public every day of the week, is that correct?
At the moment, we're open every day except Tuesdays, so from midday until 7 p.m.
And tastings are available at the distillery?
Yes, you can taste all 4 of the gins for just 1 coin, 500 yen. Standing right in front of the stills, you can chat to the guys at the shop. They can take you through each of the gins, tell you the story of the village. There are massive windows where you can see right into the factory. You can see the stills. You can see into the lab room and the bottling room, so that you can really feel like you're in the distillery.
Yeah, as you were good enough to show me around in the distillery before we spoke today, and one thing I commented to you, the stills are really attractive. I would almost say sexy bits of work out the back. Great backdrop against which to do that tasting or to have a drink. And I thought actually they kind of manifest what I think, from talking to you, what I can tell about distilling is part of it is art, part of it is science. And that's almost reflected in the form of the stills that are obviously about producing the end result. They're mechanical things, but they're also almost like works of art themselves. They're pretty attractive. Nice.
Yeah. So there's so the manufacturer is Carl Stills, which is a company in Germany. They're very interesting people. They really thought of art and functionality, both of those things, in designing this still.
I think it's that classic example of German design, German engineering, that combination of form and function.
Oh yeah, definitely. Right? That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Because they almost look like they're living, breathing. Well, they literally are, right? But there's living like organisms out the back. And it's a fantastic setting. Yeah,
you can see. I mean, we've got all the little lights in the stills, so that you can see everything. The vapor jumping up and down, and the liquid condensing, and that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, it's tremendous. Look, Sam. Again, thank you very much for speaking with me today. Thank you for showing me around the distillery before we spoke and then sitting down for our chat. I think the work that you guys are doing here is tremendous. I can really say that quite honestly. I'm a gin drinker, and the reason I was so eager to speak with you is that your gin is really fantastic. So congratulations on all the success so far. Good luck with what's to come, which I'm sure is more success. Looking forward to trying those whiskies in a year or two from now. So, mate, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you very much for the opportunity. Everyone, Nozawa Onsen is amazing. Please come along to the distillery, try our gin.
Another very big thank you to Sam for speaking with me. I thoroughly enjoyed our chat and already a big fan of their gin. What he had to say only put the hook into me more, and I'm excited for what's to come. As mentioned, the distillery sits in the heart of Nozawa Onsen and is open every day other than Tuesday from 12 to 7. Make sure to check out their website, nozawaonsendistillery.jp, and follow them on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Now let's talk the ski resort. Nozawa Onsen Ski Resort sits above the hot spring village, with many guest houses having direct access to the ski fields or within a couple of minutes' walk. The resort totals around 300 hectares of interconnected terrain, making it the third or fourth largest ski resort in Japan, depending on which source you read. To the best of my knowledge, it's the fourth largest, with Shigakogen in Nagano being the largest, Joetsu Kokusai in Niigata being the second, Niseko United in Hokkaido being the third, and Nozawa Onsen fourth. Don't shoot me down too fast if you've read or heard differently. I believe it to be the fourth largest, but these things are always debated, and in the end it just depends on how you want to measure it. Let's just say that Nozawa Onsen is one of the largest ski resorts in Japan. Skiing was introduced to Nozawa as early as the late 19th century, with the first competitive ski events being held in the early 20th century and the first ski jumps and ski lifts installed in the 20s and 30s. During the 1998 Winter Olympic Games, Nozawa Onsen hosted the biathlon, but then experienced a bit of a dip in popularity until it popped up on the radar for international visitors from around after 2010 onwards, and since that time has quickly grown into one of the most popular ski resorts in Japan. The resort has a relatively low elevation, located from 565 to 1650 metres, but offers a decent 1085 metres of vertical. Despite its low elevation, the resort is known for its deep and dry powder, experiencing an average of 10 to 12 metres, that's 32 to 39 feet, each winter, which can be enjoyed across 36 courses serviced by 2 gondolas and 18 lifts. Among its courses, Nozawa boasts one of the longest ski runs in Japan at 10 kilometres. The resort includes a decent snowpark in the Ueno Taira area, including a halfpipe, with backcountry accessible through the gates in the Yamabiko area. Of course, if you're going to enjoy the backcountry at Nozawa, make sure to read the rules and warnings before you head out, as it comes with real risks. For families, there's a kids park in the Hikage area along with daycare services, and given the resort's popularity with international visitors, there's no shortage of English-speaking services, including rental and ski school. The lifts and infrastructure are generally good, allowing you to move around the resort easily, especially since the installation of the new Nagasaka gondola a couple of years ago. I believe the resort officially opens in late November, however, given its location and lower elevation, don't expect great snow at that time, and certainly don't expect the full resort to be open. From mid-December onward, snow should start falling regularly, but it's still early season, so can't be guaranteed. If you can, I recommend coming in January or February, with March also offering fantastic conditions when the resort is usually much quieter. The resort is at its busiest on January 15th each year when it hosts its annual Fire Festival, a hugely popular event that draws a crowd of thousands. Whenever you plan to visit, you need to book well in advance, especially if you want to be there over Christmas, New Year's, on weekends and national holidays, or for the Fire Festival. There's a huge range of accommodation, including traditional hot spring ryokan, and an increasing amount of self-contained options. The village is lively at night, with more and more restaurants and bars opening, and offering really good après-ski. The opening of the distillery only adds to this. The central village is compact, with everywhere you want to go accessible on foot, and express buses run to and from Iyama Station, a journey of only 20 minutes, and Iyama Station is a stop on the Hokuriku Shinkansen line bound for Tokyo, a journey of another hour 40, hour 50 minutes. When you consider all these things together, the size of the resort, the amount and quality of the snow, the mix of terrain, accommodation, English language services, dining and nightlife, and of course the hot springs, all within a compact village which is easily accessible from Tokyo, this is the reason that I rate Nozawa Onsen as the best all-round ski resort in Nagano, and I'm certain that I'll dedicate an episode to skiing and snowboarding in Nozawa in future. Okay, that'll do for today's episode. Thanks for listening, and as always, I'd love for you to subscribe, rate, review, and share the podcast. Make sure to follow the pod on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and get in touch via the website snowcountrystories.com. I love getting your feedback, suggestions, and requests. My name is Peter Carnell. This has been Snow Country Stories Japan. I'll be back in a couple of weeks with the next episode. And as promised, to round out today's show, I test out a theory I have about the heat of Nozawa's hot springs with Sam. Bye for now. I've got a question about the onsen.
Yes.
So I stayed here again recently, about 3 weeks ago. And in the evening, I went out and tried a few, starting with the Oyu, the largest of them. It was literally too hot for me to get in there. So then I moved on to a second one, which was also uncomfortably hot. But there were some guys already in there. And I didn't want to, back out of... I wanted to look tough. So I got in. But it was unbelievably hot. And I have a theory. Are the locals turning up the heat to try to get the tourists out of the onsen? Because they're used to it. They can handle it, right? Because my understanding is that at the source, it's around 70 to 80 degrees Celsius, right? So obviously the heat is controlled because you're not sitting in 80 degree water. It's around 43, 44.
Sometimes a bit more, yeah.
Yeah, and my experience with onsen is 41 to 42 is really comfortable. It's amazing what a couple of more degrees does in terms of your comfort. And as a local, am I correct? Are people here turning it up to get people like me out?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. No, I'm kidding. No, there's, as you probably noticed, there's the cold tap where you can add a bit of cold water, but no one ever dares to. If there's like an Oji-chan or a
that's
granddad
very
in there.
kindly. Yeah. When I went into this one, there were 3 obviously local guys in there, and one of them very kindly actually just turned it on for me.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
which I was surprised. It embarrassed me, but also it didn't help.
No, but yes, the hot. It's locals are used to it, and yeah, they want to keep it that way, I guess.
So I think I'm correct.